Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United transfer news as another deal falls by the wayside. Yes, reports coming in that Wan Bissaka's move to West Ham is now in jeopardy and could well be off. We'll be talking about that, of course. Also, Fabrizio Romano's given an update on Scott McTominay, who is apparently still for sale. We've got another setback in relation to Atalanta's Ederson. There was talk of Manchester United maybe pivoting from Ugarte to Ederson. I wouldn't quite mind that deal, but apparently that can't happen. It's more impossible than getting Ugarte out of PSG. We'll talk about why that is as well. We've also got a few other bits to bring you as well around the midfield. And I wrote, oh yes, okay, I know what that's all about as well. Zubimendi is basically a Liverpool player, by the way. Get ready for that. Fofana talks apparently aren't true. So sort of midfield options at the moment are very much looking like Sander Berge or Amrabat, which is just incredibly shit, I think, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. And talking about opinions, by the way, should we, as Manchester United fans, a lot of people talking about this over the last 24 hours, should we as Manchester United fans be patient with this new regime or frustrated or anything else? We'll be talking about that a little bit later in the show. But let's hit the latest news first of all. So this came in last night, wasn't it? This came in last night, late last night. Morning, Mark. In your opinion, will we have a new signing in the squad for Fulham, says Daily Hibbert? That's a great question. It's a great question. I will come back to that great question because I think it's multi-layered. But look, this came in last night, late last night, and there was no way I was going to go live on it because it was depressing. Football reporter at the Daily Telegraph, Mike McGrath, says that it has not been possible for West Ham to thrash out a deal for Wan Bissaka. Kieran Trippier is now on their radar for the right back position. So Manchester United effectively spending the last however long, working on a deal for Wan Bissaka to leave Manchester United to allow them to sign Mazraoui, another player that we've agreed personal terms with and a wage with and a contract with who's not a Man United player. So another deal that looks like it's fallen through that was just an open goal, really. I mean, West Ham, Wan Bissaka, first team football, off you go, decent transfer fee, and the deal can't happen. Another deal, another similarity to the Glazer regime, actually, where the joy and efficiency gets sucked out of every deal that we do. I mean, this Wan Bissaka deal has been going on for weeks now, and it's still not been done. So the news is that it might not be happening at all. And I just think, talking about patience or whatever, I mean, I don't actually like differentiating the Manchester United entity. Manchester United is Manchester United. You all support it for a reason. It all means different things to everybody else, but it's Manchester United. I'm not separating it off into a little bit about the Glazers, a little bit about INEOS, a little bit about this. It's Manchester United. It's one entity. And when it comes to transfers at the moment, as it's been like for years, when it comes to selling, we're terrible. We're absolutely terrible. And yeah, we've not been very good at buying players either this summer, if we're being completely honest, but selling players, absolutely rubbish. I mean, Manchester United couldn't sell batteries to a frustrated housewife whose rampant rabbit has run out of power. It's absolutely terrible. We can't do a thing at the moment. And, get your analogies in of what United couldn't sell something for. It's incredible. It really is. It couldn't sell an umbrella to Noah. They're bloody rubbish. And that's where we are at the moment. And whether we should be patient or not, those things are true. We are absolutely terrible. And it's true. I'd love to know what the excuses are. I'm not even opposed to being patient, but we are in terribly bad. And even if this Wan Bissaka deal ends up getting done now, it's still taken 2 weeks of negotiations with West Ham to get to somewhere where we want to get to. And we spoke last night about the De Ligt deal, which is, pretty much the same, where, Wan Bissaka could still go to West Ham. I think Fabrizio Romano said this morning that West Ham are still trying to negotiate a deal. But, the Telegraph is saying that it could be off. which means Man United might now start negotiations with Inter Milan, which means it all starts again. Which means, does Wan Bissaka start against Fulham and Dalot starts at left back? I don't know. Will Luke Shaw be fit? I don't know. So are we going back to that again? Are we basically going to pick the same team as last season without Varane? Like, it's that I don't see the progress at the moment. I really don't see the progress, and I think that it's mission impossible for Ten Hag, Ruud van Nistelrooy, and Rennie when they're having to work with the same issues that that were there last year. So yeah, very, very disappointing. And I know, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But the way this week has worked, if you think about it, we started the week hoping to bring in 3 players and sell 2 players, and every day something bad's happened. Like Monday, Agate deal off. Tuesday, Fulham, McTominay off, and now Wednesday night we hear that Wan Bissaka, West Ham might be off. So we're getting further away from Sunday. We're actually getting, when you think about it, Sunday night we were thinking we're close to 3 signings, we're close to 2 sales. Thursday morning, we're further away from things. So we're actually getting further away from doing transfer business at the moment. So yeah, God, we need some positive news. We really, really do. I think that I don't know what will happen with Wan Bissaka now, just before we move on. If that West Ham story is true, it might be a little bit of what we've done with PSG, actually. You know, it might be we're walking away because we can't get a deal done. And that might be West Ham doing that to us like we've done it to PSG. It might be West Ham just sort of saying we're bored, we're tired, we've got a season to get started for. And to be fair to West Ham, they've got Villa, first game of the season, which is a difficult game. And they've got players in. I mean, I can't remember who West Ham have bought, but I think they've got 3 or 4 in already. They've definitely got Fulkrug in. So West Ham are probably saying we want a right back for the Villa game. We're not pissing about. Whereas Man United are quite happily to drift through the start of the season with the same team as last year. Because I do think that we will probably end up with De Ligt. Just on De Ligt, I wasn't going to mention him much at all. I do think we will end up with De Ligt. But I think INEOS have made a decision that they're not that bothered about being ready for the start of the season over saving money. I think money has been prioritised over points again, because I think United believe they will get De Ligt if they play hardball until the back end of the transfer window with Bayern Munich. And I think Bayern Munich probably think, like we do, United will need De Ligt for the Fulham game. And I think INEOS have gone, little do they know, we're willing to risk points against Fulham, Brighton and Liverpool to hold out to the back end of the window and save 5 million. So I think we will get De Ligt, but I don't think we care when we get De Ligt. I.e., I think we're not that bothered if it happens on August the 30th, which I am, personally. I don't agree with that. I think this is the Premier League. It's very, very competitive beyond Manchester City. I don't think you can just dismiss 3 or 6 points. I mean, I'm not saying that we won't beat Fulham, Brighton and Liverpool, but I think we'd have a better chance if we had the better players in. But United clearly aren't prioritising points over saving a bit of money. And maybe they've got to save that money. Maybe they can't afford it. I don't know. But I certainly don't think that we're out of a De Ligt deal. I think we're just going to play the long game. And the long game will be literally the long game with Harry Maguire pinging 40-yard balls to Rashford over the top. But, I think that's what we're going to do. That's lovely. Rob McCreef says, "Hi Mark, I've logged into my husband's account. Could you please wish Rob happy 50th birthday? Thank you from Lani." Very, very, very good tactics. Can you come and be our chief negotiator for Manchester United? Because I like the cut of your jib. Happy birthday to Rob. Managed to get a ticket for Fulham, hoping to see new signings, says Daniel. At this rate, the same team last year and Josh Zirkzee up front. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see new signings, to be honest, mate. Even if we get any in, I don't think they'd start against Fulham now. It's Thursday, so even if you get a here we go today, they won't be holding up the shirt until early next week. They won't have time to train and play against Fulham next Friday night. So, yeah, you won't be seeing any new signings other than Zirkzee. John Valiant says, to be fair, we've made progress. We've gone from monitoring FC to personal terms FC. And Patrick Lynch says, patience is needed, but shouldn't be at the expense of progress, especially when we had 90% deal done. What do you think about McTominay as a number 9 for Fulham, says Brian Millington. And Scott Botham says, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But if we don't manage to sell these players and make more transfers, I predict another finish outside the top 5, which is terrifying, says Scott. Alexi says, hi, Mark. Was Yoro fee up front? Even 50 million for him and 10 million initial payment for Xerxes means 60 million investment from new owners. After not investing last season, it's a shambles, even if that was net spend, says Alexi. I can't, for the life of me, believe that we paid £52 million up front for Yoro, because it wouldn't be necessary. We would have got him for 45. I think the reason we paid that much is because it's on instalments. Same bloody stories, says Dazzo. Dazzo's woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Same bloody stories every day. You're getting boring, mate. He's paid £5 to come in like that. Mate, I'm ready. I appreciate it, but I don't know. I don't really understand what your point is, Dazzo. It's a news show. It's 10 years. And Aaron Wan Bissaka is a new story from last night from Mike McGrath. We've got a new story from Fabrizio Romano coming in about Scott McTominay. We've got a new story from Italy coming in about Ederson. And we've got a new story coming in around the midfield. So I don't know what you're talking about, Dazza. I mean, you know, maybe you've woke up and you shit yourself. I don't know. But don't take your mood out on this community on a news show where we've got loads of new news that we're talking about. This is getting very boring now, as we fans of the best club in the world deserve better. Our midfield, we will get beat many times again, says David Miller. Daily Hibbert asked that question, will we have a new signing in the squad for Fulham? I think it's highly unlikely. Yeah. Carl Wick says, screams of player power. They know if they don't leave, the board can't replace them, so they will get game time. And Paul Davies says, I'd never thought I'd see the day West Ham could outspend United. Maybe one's running the football side, but still the Glazers are running the show, says Paul Davies. Thank you very much. And Paul Thompson says, these players need to go. Is there a rule that we have to sell players to another club? Can INEOS not just give them a desk job and pay them off? And Dan the Man says, when will the INEOS be doing a strategic review of this transfer window failure? Heads should roll for this incompetency. I think it's a great point, actually. You know, they had a strategic review of Eric Ten Hag, who won an FA Cup, and they left him in limbo. Oh, are we going to sack you? Are we not going to sack you? Will they have a strategic review of their own shit show? Because if this was a season, it's relegation. Yeah. Oh, Eric Ten Hag wins the FA Cup with, you know, an injury-decimated team. Oh, we're going to review his job and we're going to take our time. We're not going to run to a decision. We're going to walk to the right decision. You know, we're publicly going to expose Ten Hag and we're going to think about sacking him and we're going to interview other people. Will you do it to yourself? Because that is a great point. This transfer window is an absolute shit show. You've employed best in class. Are you going to strategically review your own show, or are you going to be a shit show, hypocrite show where basically you expose your manager and you know, make him look an idiot for about a month as you know, publicly put his job on trial, but then you proceed to sit over an absolute shit show, but it's jobs for the boys, is it? You know, I hope there is a strategic review, because, I mean, what Ten Hag did last year, and you put his job on the line, is way better than what you've achieved this summer, which is an absolute embarrassment at this moment in time. So you do need to look in at yourself. Apparently, you've recruited best in class as well. So I don't know. I don't know what best in class means at the moment, because agreeing personal terms with players is absolutely nothing unless you actually sign them, and we haven't signed them at the moment. Funny accounts on X defending INEOS, but will blame Ten Hag for poor start. In all seriousness, it will get worse before it gets better. Ready for injuries, bad games, Ten Hag sacked, rude interim. Well, we're going to talk about that in a moment, about patience or, you know, frustration. I haven't got a problem with INEOS in the sense that I think they can do a good job, but I think they've got to be accountable and they've got to own the fact that they've done shit. And my problem with INEOS in the first 6 months that we've had them is every time anything goes bad, they disappear. You know, the Ten Hag decision, no one was really saying anything. Dan Ashworth taking months, no one really said anything. Towards the end of last season, when all the shit was hitting the fan, you didn't know INEOS were even in control of the football side. And now the summer transfer window's gone wrong. It's all silent again. As soon as we bought Yoro, you couldn't move for comments from Barada and Dan Ashworth. And now we hear nothing again. I want this football club to be run like Bayern Munich and Dortmund, where the CEO and the director of football are speaking regularly to the public. They'll talk when there's a signing, but they'll say fuck all when nothing else is going on. The Dortmund CEO and the Bayern Munich director of football are regularly talking to the press. And this is what's been going on at Manchester United for a decade. When things aren't going right, everybody goes and hides. When something good happens, the Glazers turn up at Wembley. Like, where's the accountability? I don't know. Anyway, back to the transfer news, because I don't want to upset Dazzo. Do you think we could have signed Zubimendi if we acted quickly, even though it seems Liverpool have been on this for a while? Could we not try and hijack, says Matt? Why would you go to Man United over Liverpool? Why would you? On a serious question, why would you go to Manchester United over Liverpool at the moment? I think Liverpool have got a plan. They've been in and around the top of the league over the last 6-7 years more consistently than we have. And they don't have the Glazers in charge. I think Man United are a bigger club, and of course I would want a player to come to Manchester United, but I don't think we can hijack a Liverpool deal. I don't think we can do that. And we haven't got the money as well. Liverpool are making their first summer signing. They will have an easy £50 million to go and buy that player in a defined playing system. I mean, if you're Zubimendi as well, and you go to Liverpool, you can already tell that they're going to play a high line, that they're going to play a double pivot, that you're going to have, even if Van Dijk gets injured, they've got backup centre-backs that won't change the way they play. And the only job you've got is to settle into the Premier League in a system that's clearly definable. If you come to Man United, you're going to go, fuck knows what the back four is going to be, fuck knows what we're going to play, fuck knows what the midfield's going to be, and who knows if I come in and don't start well, I'll be the full guy on the bench whilst McTominay plays. So I think that Ken says, why would you not come to Manchester United for the project? What project? What project? What project have we got at the moment, Ken? I get what you're saying, and I wish that was the case, but where is the project? There is no project. Wan Bissaka's still here. Harry Maguire's still here. Casemiro's still here. McTominay's still here. Lindelof's still here. Even Sancho's been brought back in, and we thought there's no way that... I thought there was more chance of Greenwood coming back than Sancho. So what's the project? Basically, walk into your garden, dig up a bit of soil, turn it round and say, I've just redone your garden. That'll be a grand, thank you very much. It's the same fucking soil that you've just turned over. I don't see what the project is at the moment, and I can completely understand what the Liverpool project is. So I don't see how we could hijack a Liverpool Zubimendi deal, if I'm being honest. But look, talking about the midfield, let's get the latest news on this. So there is an update from Fabrizio Romano around the midfield. I mean, look, some of you might take this as positive news, I suppose, but effectively, Manchester United, Scott McTominay remains available on the market for a fee of around £30 million, and that's coming in from Fabrizio Romano. I nearly just threw up there, by the way, because the next story just turned my stomach. But there we go. Fabrizio also said Man United never had anything concrete on Zubimendi. It was basically just a name that was being mentioned. So McTominay remains available on the market for a fee of around £30 million. And but you know, that's like Ian Beale saying I'm available for a lead role in a Martin Scorsese film. You know, you can be available but completely out of your depth. And we're not going to get £30 million for Scott McTominay. I think people need to wake up and smell the coffee on this one, because I genuinely think it's just appeasing the fans. Let's agree personal terms with players. The fans get excited, and then if it doesn't happen, we can say we agreed personal terms. Let's say Scott McTominay's available for 30 million. We know no one will ever pay it, so we'll get to keep him anyway. So I don't think that... I believe that Scott McTominay is genuinely for sale, if I'm being honest with you. I think that Scott McTominay is not for sale because he's absolutely not the right price to go. We want to pay £30 million for De Ligt, and then we're putting £30 million price tag on Scott McTominay. That's a piss take. That is an absolute piss take. Adrian C says, we need to allow INEOS time. Previous management of the club gave stupid contracts to players who hold all the power until their deals run out, says Adrian C. No, mate, I disagree. I think I disagree. You're talking about the biggest club in the world. You're talking about an ownership that was so desperate to buy this football club that they decided to buy 28% when there was somebody willing to buy all of it and clear the debt. So they decided to do that. I don't think... Look at the scenario, right? You've got an owner that wanted to buy all of it, pump money into it and clear the debt. And then you've got an owner that wanted 28% and said that they could make the club successful. We all know full ownership and clearance of the debt is better than what we've got at the moment. And then what we've got at the moment is somebody who gave us a worse option saying, I want patience, when the other option wouldn't have needed patience. So I don't think we have to say, let's be patient with the worse option. INEOS were the worse option compared to a full sale and a clearance of the debt. That's a fact. But we've got it. This is the reality. So I'm not moaning about the past. This is the present. But I'm not going to sit here and go, give them patience. They put us down a road of the worst option. It's their job to prove that it's the right option. And the right option cannot be, we need loads of time, it's really difficult. We all knew it was fucking difficult. That's why we wanted a full sale and a clearance of the debt, because many of us felt the only way back for this football club was a total reset with no debt and a new control of the club. INEOS said that wasn't required. We can make this club successful. Don't come in and then go plead poverty and go, oh, it's really difficult. Because we all knew this. Because guess what? We actually support this football club and we know what the problems are. And this is why most people wanted a full sale and the Glazers out. So when you come in now and go, it's really difficult, give us patience, forget it. Forget it. You put us in this position and said that you could make us successful. So when you mess up things, don't go, oh, we need some patience here. And also, you can't just sit there and go, oh, these players are on big contracts. There's nothing we can do until they're gone. Casemiro's here for 3 more years. Sancho's here for 3 more years. It's only Maguire and Lindelof who are only here for another year. What are we supposed to do then? Just sit back for the next 3 years and watch these players run our football club? No. There are ways around this, and INEOS need to start finding ways around it. You can't just buy a football club, take away an opportunity of a clearance of the debt and a full sale, and then go, oh, it's harder than we thought. It's going to be really difficult. They need to get best in class. They told us the story. Now deliver the story. That's what they need to do. Mark, I read that if a player at United has his extension triggered by the club, can get up to 50% of any transfer fee as compensation for not getting to the end of the original deal. I think that's complete bollocks, Nick. I've never heard such shite in all my life. I just don't. I don't understand that one at all. What do you want them to do? If we overpay, you'll be the first to complain. If we get second opinions, you'll complain. Either overpay or not get first, says Abdul. Abdul, I'll tell you what I want them to do, because you think you're being clever and you think you've got me on the line and you haven't. What you're saying is, I will moan if we overpay. Yeah, I will. I will moan if we end up with options C or D. Yeah, I will. What I want them to do is not buy the football club in the first place if that's all they can do. If they can't get plan A and they have to overpay and they can't get rid of players, then maybe they shouldn't have bought the football club in the first place, and they should have let us go down the road where we remove the Glazers completely, we remove the debt completely, and we end up with a full new ownership. If they can't do the job, don't come to me and go, what do you want them to do? There was another option here, Abdul. I don't have to sit here and watch them not do well and go, oh, I feel sorry for them. And for you to go, what should they do? What do you want them to do? Not buy the club in the first place. If they can't do the job, they shouldn't have bought the job in the first place. And we've had plenty of PR interviews about best in class and Man United's going to be the best club in the world. Look, maybe this will be one blip. Maybe this summer will be an absolute shit show and they'll learn from it. But they need to learn from it, and they need to learn from it quick, Abdul, because they are jeopardising the season much the same as the Glazers have done for 10 years. And at the moment, a lot of people are just saying, what's new? Hi, Mark. On Tuesday was my birthday. I really wanted you to wish me a happy birthday, but I had a network problem, says Muck. Happy birthday, mate. I hope you had a good one. Adrian wants to... I've done that one from Adrian. And this window is a 2 out of 10 for me. We replaced Willy Kambala with Yoro. If you look at age of Varane, still to be replaced. We need a striker, so we've done nothing. And United still moving like a business and not a football club. It's a PLC and it's frustrating, says captain. We support Manchester United, buy the best and progress our football club. And Tennyson says, for once, I agree with you, Mark. INEOS don't deserve time. They deserve time as long as there's progress. And I've seen a lot of people say that. If there's progress, there's patience. But at the moment, where's the progress? It doesn't feel any different to any other. Now, here comes the depressing news. Bernard B says, will a healthy Luke Shaw have a substantial impact on Rashford's success? Well, I think a healthy Luke Shaw is a big question mark, really. Jackie Boy says, Sky is saying Sanderberg is on his way. Okay, well, this is what I was just going to give you anyway. So this is just coming out in the last few minutes. What I would say is that it's coming in from Sky Sports chef, Dharmesh Chef, who, look, him and Sky Cabe haven't been relevant on transfers for about 5 years, if they ever were relevant on transfers. They had a good insight on Fulham. And I'll always, I've been doing this for 10 years. I know who the journalists are. I know how they operate. I know what their success rates are, and so do you. I'm not going to suddenly start holding up Sky Sports Chef as bloody Romano or Ornstein. They got the inside track on Fulham because they have a good connection in at Fulham. They knew about Smith Rowe and they knew that Fulham weren't going to go in for McTominay anymore. They're now saying Man United have held talks with Burnley over midfielder Sander Berge and are currently exploring conditions of a deal. But they're also saying dialogue's open with Monaco over Fofana after initial approach Fofana in the final year of his contract. I don't think I believe any of those stories, if I'm being honest. It's Sky. And I'm not bringing Sky Sports into this show anymore. They were in it years ago. The summer that we bought Dan James was the summer that was the last summer Sky Sports were good. And I don't remember how many years that was ago. But that was the last summer Sky had actual contacts. In the industry, everybody knows that Sky Sports on transfers are shit. I mean, their best signing is getting rid of people in suits and getting them in white trainers and a t-shirt. That's Sky Sports news. I don't watch it. It's not where I get my transfer news from. And I certainly don't think that Sky Sports News are suddenly the inside track on Manchester United. There's way, way better sources. So I'm not going to panic about Sander Berge in final negotiations for Manchester United or Fofana, because they're both completely different players and they're both completely contradictory of each other. Why would you be talking to Fofana and Sander Berge? It screams of desperation that you go from Agate, Zubimendi, Sander Berge, Fofana. It's like desperately trying to find a Christmas present at 5 to midnight on Christmas Eve at your local petrol station. So I don't really panic about stuff like that, because as much as I think INEOS have got a lot of things to do and a lot of things to prove, you're telling me we're going to go from Agate, Zubimendi to Sander Berge. I just don't believe that. I don't think even the Glazers would do that. So, and I certainly don't think people of the quality of Omar Barada are going to be happy about that. I really don't. I don't think Ten Hag's going to be happy with that. I mean, Sander Berge is a player that in 2 years of Ten Hag has barely ever been linked to us at all. So I just don't believe that. And also, £30 million for a relegated Championship player. I mean, they should be paying us. So I don't for 1 minute think this. I know some of you like him and think he's a good player, which I find hilarious because he's been in the Premier League for 2 of the last 3 years. And I've never heard anybody mention him in the chat once. So it's amazing how we can get linked to a player and suddenly he can solve Man United's problems and take us to top 4. But I've never heard anybody anywhere ever mention this player as a player that can take any football club into the top 4. And suddenly he's the heir to Casemiro's throne. So I find it hilarious. If Man United do it, then God help us. But we certainly won't be going anywhere fast if that's going to be our midfield signing this summer. Thoroughly depressing story. Twice relegated Norwegian McTominay, says Jackie Boy. Man, he ain't that good. You know what? A few years ago, before he went to Sheffield United, I can't remember where he was playing. He got linked to Man United. He was probably about 22, 23 at the time. and he got linked to Man United, and there was a bit of excitement around him. And that's the last I ever heard of him. I never noticed him playing for Sheffield United or Burnley. I'm not saying he's terrible, but we're talking about Man United's holding midfielder here. We're talking about a player that's going to take us to the next level. Yeah, no, absolutely not. And the fact that we want to give him 100 grand a week and 30 million pounds, fucking terrible. I mean, that just stinks to me of pure desperation. Pure desperation. As does Fofana. You know, Fofana's off to AC Milan. Oh, quick, let's do that deal. You can't pivot to desperation. It's just, look, I'm just going to reserve judgment on it and say, let's just wait and see what happens, because sometimes it's just not worth getting frustrated about something that's not going to happen. And never say never, but fucking hell. How can Liverpool be signing Zubimendi and we be signing Sander Berge? I mean, come on. The lesson's there straight away, isn't it? But what I also wanted to talk about the midfield is we are in trouble in the midfield. We need to sell to buy, and we haven't got a midfielder to go. We've got this ridiculous issue where we can't sell Casemiro. We've got this ridiculous price tag which will stop us selling Scott McTominay. The Agate deal, I think, is off because Manchester United cannot afford Agate because they haven't got the money, because they haven't sold a midfielder that they were expecting to. And I think that also, secondary to that, the options are all drying up. I mean, it's interesting because this is what we're here to do on the United Stand. It's not just about reading a fucking tweet. You've got to do your own thing. But I think when I look at the players that have been mentioned to Manchester United since the Agate deal fell through, in the last sort of 48 hours, Ederson has been mentioned by people. Well, look, I don't just monitor English football. I keep an eye on Italian football a lot because I like that league. And if you actually have your finger on the pulse of what's going on in the Italian leagues, Atalanta have had a nightmare last few months. Scalvini had a bad injury and is out until Christmas. And Scamacca has just done his cruciate ligament and he's basically going to be out for the season. Now, even at the start of the summer, Atalanta didn't want to sell anybody really, but if they were going to sell anyone, it was going to be Coop Miners, who also had an injury and missed the Euros. So Ederson was seen as a player that Atalanta didn't want to sell. They didn't want to sell him at the start of the summer. So you were going to have to pay big to get him. They really do not want to sell him now because of the injuries that they've got. So this whole let's go and get Ederson for 34 million, it's a laugh. It's a joke. Atalanta don't sell cheap, as we know. We paid good money for Rasmus and we paid good money for Ahmad. And we haven't got the money to go and do a deal for Atalanta or for them to do us a favour just because we didn't get Agate. So as much as I think Ederson would be a good player, and Dan Ashworth was a big admirer of Ederson at Newcastle because they tried to get him at Christmas in the January transfer market, that deal ain't easy. So I think maybe what's happening here, and the reason we might be looking at a Sander Berge, is because it's a cheap shit deal that we can actually do with a championship side. Because Atalanta, Ederson, virtually impossible. Agate, PSG, we can't negotiate that. Zubimendi is going to Liverpool. So 3 of the best midfield options are gone. So you're already going down to option D, E, F, G, whatever. I mean, I'd say Sander Berge is probably more option Z, but you're going down the list. And this is a very important position. I think we're at a point now where we may as well just stick with Casemiro. Like, I think, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm at a point now where there's been people in the chat for the last few weeks saying that we're being disrespectful of Casemiro. He could have a bounce back. I think we're better off keeping Casemiro. Casemiro or Sander Berge. Casemiro. Like, seriously, we may as well just give him another go, because if you're not going to get an Ederson or a Zubimendi or an Agate, who in themselves have an element of risk. It's not like you're buying Kimmich or Declan Rice or Rodri. There's an element of risk with those, but they are clearly better options than where we're heading now. Like, we are moving down the list to get a midfielder in. Just stick with what you've got. I mean, even Collier could end up being better than Sander Berge this year. So I don't see the point. You're just spending money to get a player in now, and you're moving down the list. So I'm of the opinion that just keep your money in your pocket, Sir Jim, and don't waste your money on a player that's just going to completely and utterly uninspire this fan base. Apart from, a small minority who seem to be very excited by him, it's a really uninspiring, boring transfer. In fact, I can't think of a signing that would be so boring as this since probably... I didn't want Matic, but at least he was proven, Can't we loan a couple of them to Nice, says James? Burge could walk out in the way a lot of Newcastle signings weren't exciting, like Dan Burn helped them go forward still. Need to get signings in soon, says LMP. But the trouble is, LMP, you're right. If you think about some of the Newcastle signings like Dan Burn, he worked out really well at Newcastle from Brighton. I'm trying to think of others that worked out quite well. But this is the holding midfielder for Man United. I don't remember Dan Ashworth going and signing some average midfielder from, Swansea to run the midfield for Newcastle. He went and got Bruno Guimaraes from France. So Dan Burn is a centre-back playing at left-back. That we're talking about the guy that's going to run our midfield. It's a big, big difference. And look, if it works out, what does it matter to me? I just want Man United to be successful, and I'm certainly not afraid to say I got that one wrong, but I'm not going to sit here and say, let's give it a chance. I think it could be a good deal. There's nothing in me that thinks that Sander Berge to Man United's a good deal at all. I think it's a terrible deal. And I think what makes it even worse is what your starting point was, where you agree a deal with someone like Ugarte, who might not work. I'm not saying he will work, but there's a pedigree there. And you go for a player that's... Look, it's not his fault he's been relegated twice in 3 years. Harry Maguire got relegated twice, I think. It doesn't... Just because you've been relegated doesn't mean that, you're a terrible player. But what it does mean is that when you got relegated the first time, why didn't you get picked up by big clubs? That's what normally happens. If you're a good player in a relegation side, Tottenham will buy you. Newcastle will buy you. Maybe if you're lucky, Arsenal will buy you. Or maybe Fulham will buy you. But they didn't. He got bought by a newly promoted team who got relegated again. So that's my question. It's not his fault he got relegated twice. But if he's such an amazing player, why is he playing for relegation teams in the Premier League every year? Why is he not being snapped up by... if he was so good for Sheffield United, why has he not got snapped up by everyone else? If he was so good for Burnley, why are United panic buying him in August? Where was the interest in him before apparently us? Pete Phillips says Rio's at the train station and he's hearing Vidal soon. And Nicholas says, what about a swap deal for Sancho for Ugarte? PSG don't want Sancho, mate. We have no hope of getting top 6 this season if we get Sander Berge. It's the type of player we are bringing in. It might work, but I really don't see it, says Jackie Boy. Scott says, I agree, save up. We don't need Sander Berge. And Mark, what would they Qataris have done differently, says Inven. I don't know, I don't know, because you can't just pump money into the football club, into the transfer side of things, because there are rules. But we wouldn't have any debt anymore. We'd be quickly progressing on a new stadium because they'd have the money to build it straight away. If Qatar had got hold of Man United, you'd see what happened to Man City. Basically, they'd just pump a load of money in. Like infrastructure, stadia, debt gone. It'd all be gone. And we'd be building the stadium already. We've got to find a way of funding this stadium. The debt's still there. The problems are still there. But in relation to the actual footballing side of things, look, there's better minds financially than me that would tell you how it works when you've got loads of money, because you can't just pump it into FFP. But we wouldn't have the debt, and I think that's the main thing. I think that's what cripples us even now, is that money is our god. As I said at the start of the video, we are prioritising saving money rather than getting players in for the start of the season. Like, we are going to take the De Ligt deal to the end of the transfer window to try and save a bit of money. And that might cost us points against Fulham. I mean, look at it this way, right? We probably still get De Ligt, but we're going to take Bayern to the back end of the window to make them reduce the fee, right? Which means against Fulham and against Brighton and maybe Liverpool, we won't have De Ligt and we won't have Yoro. So we can't play a high line because we haven't got the centre-back to do it next to Martinez. So what you're basically saying to Ten Hag is, we will get you De Ligt, but we need to get him a bit cheaper. So against Fulham and Brighton, you're going to have to play like you did last year with centre-backs that don't want to play a high line. Just put up with it. And if Ten Hag says, well, I've got no new midfielders, I can't play a high line, so there's a very big chance our midfield is going to get run through again like it did last season. Just do what you can, mate. We will get you De Ligt and you can start the season properly in September. That's the truth. That's the ridiculous nature of it, isn't it, really? We can't get hold of the midfield and press high up the pitch with the team we currently have. But we might be able to when De Ligt comes in at some point. And, you know, we're prioritising saving money over actually playing the way that we want to play. And that's very, very sad. And whoever's fault that is, you know, answers on a postcard. But it's very, very sad that we're not prepared to play the way we want to play because we're not prepared to pay to get the players in. Is that how you judge players, Mark? Whether top clubs want them or not? How you see your eyes to judge them? You always say this crap, says Kay. Let me try and understand this absolute mismatch of nonsense. Is that how you judge players, Mark? Whether top clubs want them or not? How you use your eyes to judge them? You always say this crap. Kay, when Man United bought Roy Keane from Nottingham Forest got relegated. Liverpool, Man United and Blackburn all wanted him. Three of the biggest clubs in the league at that time, even though he got relegated. My point was, Kay, when players get relegated and they're a good player, big clubs want them because they're a good player. And what I said was, Kay, if Sander Berge is so good, and I've seen people telling me on Twitter, I've seen people clipping me up, you know, apparently I've got the football knowledge of a brick from some nobody I've never heard of, but he got a few retweets out of it. But they don't listen because what happens is they hear an opinion they don't like and the frustration boils up into their fingers and they start typing away, but they don't actually listen. What I said was, Kay, it's not doesn't mean Sander Berge is a crap player because he got relegated twice. Some people are saying I don't want a twice relegated championship bum, but I'm not saying that he's totally useless. But what I'm saying is, if he's so good, why, when he's been relegated twice, have bigger clubs not come in and gone, well, he's a diamond in the rough? Because I don't know whether you've ever played Football Manager or FIFA, Kay, but I always keep an eye on who's getting relegated. Because if I've got a team that haven't got much of a budget and I see someone like Brighton get relegated, I'll think, oh, Evan Ferguson, they'll sell him on the cheap, you know. Or if Fulham get relegated, I might go, oh, the left back, he's decent. He'll be a decent squad player. They'll sell him on the cheap because they've been relegated. And that works the same in real life. So what I'm saying is, yes, Kay, I do judge how big clubs act around relegated teams because anybody with a brain will look at a relegated team and go, that player probably has got a relegation clause in their contract and that player probably doesn't want to play in the championship. So I'm going to knock on the door of that club and say, we want him because he's a good player. And that hasn't happened with Sander Berge twice. And that was my point. Why is it, if he's so good, when he's been relegated twice, teams such as Everton, Fulham, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Manchester City, Liverpool haven't knocked on the door and gone, you've got a real diamond in the rough there. He's been relegated. We'll give you a price for him. And nobody has until us now have gone, here we go. That was the point I was making. Look, I really hope that if we sign him, well, I really hope we don't sign him actually, but if we do sign him, I really hope he's a success. But don't come here in a year or two and go, yeah, that was a shit signing. And that's the risk that INEOS take because every signing they make, they will be judged on as well. Austin says, if Sander Berge was so good, company could have signed him to Bayern instead of Paulinho. Well, I think that is a brilliant comment, actually. That is great. He's obviously not as good as Paulinho, is he? So, in fact, can I just retract and leave that to Austin United TV? That he can give the definitive on Sander Berge, right? Sander Berge played with Vincent Kompany for a whole season. Vincent Kompany has just gone to Bayern Munich and bought Palhinha from Fulham. What does that tell you? Palhinha is better than Sander Berge. So even if Sander Berge is a good player, he's not as good as Palhinha. So Man United are buying inferior goods to run their midfield. Simple as that. That's my point. It's not that he's terrible. He's just not at the level we need. Because if he was this amazing player, why wouldn't Vincent Kompany take him to Bayern Munich over Palhinha? Exactly, because Palhinha is better. And is Palhinha good enough to play in Man United's midfield? Maybe. Maybe not. But he's clearly not. He's clearly better than Berge. Who else is in for Agate and De Ligt? I can't see anyone spending that much on them, says Dan. And I can't believe I'm saying this, says Reese. I think I'd rather assign nobody now if this is the way we're going. 25, 26, rip it up like never before, says Reese. Bring me back. I can fix the mess, says Richard Arnold. And at this point, I want Amrabat and Chalobah, says Random Guy. Christopher Vivell was clearly a waste of time. Recruitment specialist, my ass, says Daily Hibbert. Johnny Cardosa is a good, sensible number 6 option. I thought he'd play well against us in the second half in the Betis game. He's worth a bid, says Agile Beast. I'm more worried about creativity than the high line, says Harvey. And West Ham are reportedly after De Ligt now, says Jackie. He won't go there. Look, good few comments coming in here. I think Harvey makes a good point that we've spent so much of the summer talking about the defence and the midfield because that's where we need to improve. And I'm getting a bit of deja vu here actually, because I remember saying this before. Like, Man United don't score enough goals. In fact, I've got a video on why Man United don't score goals ready to go. I need to get it up on the channel, like it's ready to go. But we've got the preview at 2 o'clock for the Community Shield. I just can't find a slot to put it up, and it's been ready to go, and I'm really excited about putting it up because we put a bit of work into it, and I think people will really enjoy it. But it's a bit like what Daily Hibbert says at the moment. It's almost like a problem we can't talk about because there's bigger problems. And I think Daily Hibbert's right. If we bought De Ligt, Agate, it's not like we'd be winning the league. We'd then be talking about creativity. You know, we've still got Rashford, Anthony, Ahmad, Garnacho. Can they create enough, or are they going to cut inside and shoot? Are we going to end up with Rasmus 52nd in the Premier League for shots on goal? Which is disgusting. So, although we're talking about the defensive line, playing out from the back, the midfield being exposed, remember, we've still got an attack that doesn't create as well. So, it's not like the problems we're talking about at the moment are the only problems. It's just problems in order of priority. We've still got a hell of a lot of problems, haven't we? Yeah. So, interesting. I tell you what, as well, I would say... You can't, I don't know about you, but I can't stay in a particular mood forever. It's not good for you. It's not good for me. It's not good for anybody. And I think across this week, I started it on Sunday. Let's get these players in. There's still time. If we get a here we go by Wednesday, holding up the shirt by Thursday, get them training by over the weekends, they could be involved in the Fulham game. Forget it. Forget it. I can pick the team against Fulham now. Pretty much pick the team against Fulham now. It's Onana, Dalot, Maguire, Martinez, Shaw, Casemiro, Mainu, Bruno, Rashford, maybe Ahmad or Garnacho, and then Xerxes up front. I can pick the team against Fulham now. Fulham, there's your scout report. It's going to be pretty much be that team, unless we get any injuries. So from where we were on Sunday, hoping we're going to sign some players, to where we are now, that disappointment is there. Frustration is there, but you get used to it. You know, at the end of the day, it's not a shock. We've been in this position many times over the years. You can't sit there and start kicking a chair. Like we've been in it for ages. It's like what I was saying last season when we were losing games. 6 years ago, some of the games we lost last season, I would have been, you know, swearing this, that, and the other. But last season, I was just like, well, I'm not shocked. It's fake to react like that now. If you got a United fan outside Old Trafford last season saying, fucking this, fucking that, they're fake because it's become the norm. We're indoctrinated into these feelings. I think 6, 7 years ago, they were still very fresh. What the fuck's going on? This is a joke. We're Man United, you know. But not now. This is just what we've become. So, although this is really disappointing, what's happening with transfers, we are used to it. The only thing was we were expecting a new ownership to be different, and it isn't at the moment. So where I feel at the moment is, and I said it a couple of minutes ago, is I would rather we didn't buy Sander Berge. I'd rather we kept the 30 million in our pocket for January or next summer and just got on with what we've got. I'd rather buy nothing than just be desperate. Because when you're desperate, you pay £30 million to Burnley, you give Sander Berge £100,000 a week, we watch him for the next 2 years become very, very average, and then at 28, with 3 years left on his deal, you can't sell him because he's on 100 grand a week. And then you are where you are now with the likes of Maguire and Lindelof and Sancho. I would rather we did something new and went, we can't get Agate, we've missed out on Zubimendi, we can't get Edison, that's it. Those three aren't necessarily the best midfielders in the world anyway, but they were the three we wanted. We can't get any of them. Let's not go any lower than that, wasting money. Let's stick with what we've got. Let's lick our wounds and let's get on with it. And I'm at that point now. I don't want to go and buy anybody for the sake of it. And I know I'm in the minority because people just want a shiny toy, but I've played the game and I've seen this game before. You don't get what you want, you walk down the list, you still pay a shitload of money, you still pay wages, and you get stuck with the shit for 5 years. And look, it's true. Next summer, Maguire and Lindelof will be gone. Their contract's over, they'll be gone. We won't have to worry about them staying another year. So that's 2 problems gone. Don't go and bring more problems in because you couldn't get your plan A, B or C, so you buy plan D and commit to them for 5 years. It's risky. If you buy plan D, give them a 5-year contract, the chances of them being here good in 3 years are minimal. But the chances of being here in 4 years because you can't sell them are massive. Just don't do it. Just don't buy anybody. So look, if we can't get De Ligt, don't go and do something desperate. And if we can't get Mazraoui, if we can't get Mazraoui, don't go and do something desperate. And if we can't get Agate, Zubimendi or Edison, don't go and do something desperate. We already know this season's going to be very difficult. Just don't go and do something panic buy because you feel you've got to do it. Yeah. Reese Gregory says, exactly my super chat point. We'll be stuck with Sander Berge. We can't buy risks anymore. We can't. You know, people moan every single day about the Anthony deal. Tell me why Sander Berge is any different. Just because it's not as expensive, it's still a player that probably ain't going to be good enough that we'll get stuck with. We've got to be more clever than this. Got to be more clever than this. Apparently, Wan Bissaka is asking for a £7 million payoff, says Scott. And Sammy says, I've nicknamed my Rottweiler Goldbridge. Every time he hears you speak, he howls at the TV. And Ross says, instead of Berge, sign a cheap young player who could be a star, not a midfielder, but City bought Alvarez cheap. Look at him now. Our scouts are ignored. And I get why you're disappointed, but who was looking at Endo before Liverpool signed him? If we're going to improve, we'll have to do signings like Berge that are left field, says River Manu. Right, okay, we've literally just got somebody comparing Enzo Fernandez. Sorry, we've got someone comparing Endo, not Enzo, Endo of Liverpool with Sander Berge. I'm just going to leave it there. Endo, not Enzo Fernandez. Endo is now being compared to Sander Berge. Yeah. Okay. It tells me that Bayern... And didn't Liverpool pay £15 million for Endo as well? We're going to pay double for Sander Berge. So, yeah. Christopher Vavel, it tells me that Bayern have been scouting Palhinha for years, same as United have been scouting Berge for years, says River Mano. River Mano is basically Sander Berge, by the way. Need goalkeeper who plays like De Gea short term, says Ramin. And Carlson says, think long term. We need consistency if we want to be viewed as Madrid. Draw lines to make future windows easier. Well, exactly. That's what I mean. If you don't get Agate and you don't get Edison and you don't get Zubimendi, don't go and do what we've done in the past and just spunk your money on some shit from the Championship that probably will flop and you'll get stuck with for years. I mean, for me, Sander Berge's not even Schneiderlin. It reminds me of Schneiderlin, actually. And look how that worked out. Sander Berge reminds me of Schneiderlin from Southampton. On paper, looked like a decent signing that might be able to step up. Never worked. Never worked. I mean, what even happened to Schneiderlin after he was at Man United? I can't even remember. There we go.
Right. I've got a preview for the Man City game at 2 o'clock. God, I need some positivity. I think I'm going to go down to the local arcade and play Time Crisis or something, or do some of the dancing moves. I've got to get some positivity in me for this 2 o'clock preview of the Man City game. Fucking hell, mate! I've seen the predicted lineup. I've already done the homework. Like, I don't know. We need something positive. Please, Sir Jim, deliver us something positive. This is what you said was going to happen. Did our salaries reduce by 25% due to the Champions League? If so, you think it'd be easier to sell these players? Says Smoggy. They did, apparently, yeah. And surely there's an alternative in South America, says Harvey. Thank you. Right, okay. Look, thanks everyone for tuning in. Really enjoyed the show this morning. We're back at 2 o'clock with a preview. Obviously, if any transfer news comes in, we will react to that as well. And yes, I've got to get you this video up about why Man United don't score goals. It's a really good video. I just can't think where I can put it. Legends, make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Oh, I don't think I've even said this to you. I think I said it on on Twitter. Just in relation to the book that's been out for a week now. Big shout out to everybody who's ordered it. Links in the description, or you can scan the QR code, get it delivered worldwide through Amazon. You can listen to it on Audible through Amazon as well. It's also available from WH Smith and everywhere. Scan that QR code with your camera phone or search Football According to Mark Goldbridge. Get in. Links in the description. I just wanted to share a bit of news. We have something called the Sunday Times bestseller list, which comes out on a Sunday for all books. The dream was to get into the top 10. We are in the top 10. Guaranteed in the top 10 on Sunday. We could get into the top 5, which is just unheard of for a book like this to go into the Sunday Times top 5 sellers list. For this week, we are very close to the top 5. So if you're thinking about buying the book and you haven't bought it yet, or you didn't even know about the book and you think, oh, I want to be one of the people who've got it, links in the description, scan the QR code. We're very, very... I mean, it's amazing to get in the top 10, and I'll certainly be putting out screenshots of that on Sunday, but we're not actually far away from top 5, so please do buy it, and thanks for all your support, everybody who has. Absolute legends. And I will see you again at 2 o'clock. Take care. Speak to you in a bit. Thanks for watching.